Hi, I'm 16F, and last week my parents kicked me out on my birthday. No party, no gift, not even a happy birthday that felt real. Just cold words and then, you need to move out. Amanda and her baby need your room. Amanda, 22F, my older sister, is 7 months pregnant. She's always been their favorite, and I've always been extra, unnecessary. Now, with a baby on the way, they decided I no longer belong. I sat there at the kitchen table trying to stay calm as Dad stared me down and Mom looked away. Why not use the guest room? I asked. Dad said, Amanda's boyfriend will stay there. Her grown boyfriend, with a job, with his own apartment. But again, I was the one being sent away. So I packed, quietly, no tears. When neglect feels normal, you stop fighting it. They drove me to Aunt Lena's like it was no big deal. No hugs, no goodbyes. That was my 16th birthday gift. Finding out I have no home. My Aunt Lena, 38F, welcomed me warmly, with a real smile, the kind I hadn't seen from an adult in years. Her apartment was small but cozy. I could feel it right away. Someone here was actually happy to see me. I stepped inside, put my bag on the floor, and Lena gave me a hug. It was the kind of hug that makes you want to cry, but I held myself together. We sat down in the kitchen where it always smelled like baked apples and cinnamon, my favorite smell from childhood, back when Mom still cared. So tell me, Lena said while pouring tea. I started carefully. At first, just the facts. I moved out, my sister is pregnant, my room was taken, but something about the warmth in her eyes made me speak more openly. Lena, I said, barely holding back tears. They just kicked me out. No talk, no warning. Right on my birthday. She looked at me with disbelief. What do you mean, kicked you out? I told her everything. About Amanda's boyfriend taking the guest room, how they didn't even try to offer a different plan. I saw Lena's face change. She stood up quickly and went to another room with her phone. Through the wall, I heard her soft voice turn into a storm. You lied to me, she yelled. She wanted to leave. Are you crazy? I just saw her. She's holding back tears and you're telling me stories? I sat there, hugging myself. This was new to me, an adult actually defending me, getting mad for me. When Lena came back, she didn't say anything. She just sat next to me and hugged me even tighter. They lied to me, she said quietly. They told me it was your idea, that you were happy to live with me. I stayed silent. It hurt. They even lied to her, just to hide how much they don't care. That night, I lay in Lena's guest room, which she called the Freedom Room. I stared at the ceiling, and for the first time in years, allowed myself to cry. Really cry. When I turned off the lights, memories rushed in. How, when I was 6, I made my parents a birthday card, but they forgot mine. How at my first school play, Mom came late and missed my part. How Amanda got everything, and I was just sitting in the corner like extra baggage. Finally, I grabbed my phone and with shaking hands wrote a post. I poured out everything. The coldness, the distance, the favoritism, getting kicked out on my birthday. I typed fast, like my life depended on it. When I finished and hit post, I felt a sudden release. Then I turned off my phone and for the first time in a long while, fell asleep feeling like something finally changed. I woke up early. My sleep felt heavy, like someone had pulled me through thick fog all night. The room was quiet, and gray light came through the curtains, making the place feel strange, almost like it wasn't mine. But this was my first night without my parents, without their cold silence in the hallways. It felt strange, freedom mixed with emptiness. I'm not at home anymore, I thought, as I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the old wooden floor. It felt like I had left a part of myself in my old room at my parents' house, the room I had to give up on the day I was supposed to be getting birthday gifts. While I was making tea in the kitchen, Lena walked in, giving me a soft smile. She moved carefully, like I was a hurt bird that could fly away at any sudden move. It felt nice. I wanted to thank her, but instead I just quietly handed her a cup of tea. How did you sleep? She asked. Fine, just still feels like fog, I said. I picked up my phone. I hesitated for a few seconds before turning it on. When the screen lit up, I saw dozens of notifications, messages from relatives, tons of comments on my post. My heart started racing. I felt scared, but also proud, like I had done something big. I didn't read everything right away. The first thing I saw was a message from my dad. Short sentences like bullets. You embarrassed us. Ungrateful. After all we've done for you. And then, the classic. Too bad you were ever born. I sighed and lowered the phone, a sharp mix of pain and the coldness I was already used to. They found out, I told Lena. She just shrugged and calmly said, Of course they did, but you're not wrong for finally telling the truth. Then I pulled myself together and opened the comments. And that's when something inside me cracked. Cousins, uncles, even people I barely knew. They were all leaving kind words. They said they knew about this for years, that they saw how I was ignored, and that they were on my side. One comment was from a distant aunt in another city. I saw how your mom ignored you at family gatherings. I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to ruin the mood. I sat there shocked. So many people knew and stayed quiet. Why did everyone stay quiet? Wasn't it obvious I was drowning in that house? Or did I get too good at hiding it behind fake smiles? Or maybe they just thought I was strong enough to handle it. My fingers squeezed the cup so hard that I burned my hand. I didn't even notice how the tears started falling. Lena quietly came over and placed a hand on my shoulder. You have every right to be angry, she said, but you also have the right to feel relief. For the first time in a long while, you told the truth, and now people heard you. After that, I turned my phone back on, just to block my parents. No regrets. In that moment, it felt like I finally ended the battle that had been going on since I was a child. But before I could hit block, I noticed one more message, this time from Amanda. I'd like to talk, maybe in person? Please. I froze. Amanda. She was never close to me, but she was never cruel either. Just distant. Cold, like our parents. I didn't know what to do. What does she want? An apology? An excuse? I asked myself, but I left it unanswered for now. I just turned off my phone. I wanted to disappear from this world for a few more hours. It happened suddenly. In the middle of the day, sitting on the floor in my aunt's room, I broke down crying. Not quiet tears, not soft sobs, the kind of crying that shakes your whole body when you gasp for air and feel like your chest is squeezed by metal bands. I covered my face with my hands and whispered into the dark room, Why? Why do they hate me so much? Images flashed in my head, memories I had hidden deep inside for years. I remembered my 8th birthday. I ran out of my room wearing a homemade crown. I had made it from foil and cardboard, just to feel like it was a special day. I stood in the hallway, showing my parents the crown. Mom was waving me away, busy talking on the phone. Dad was outside, cleaning the car. Mom, look, I said, holding back tears. Mom just waved her hand. Go away, can't you see I'm busy? Later, they sat down to eat dinner with Amanda and didn't even ask if I had eaten anything. That was the first time I thought, maybe they don't need me. It's all your fault, I suddenly shouted. I didn't even know who I was talking to. Myself? My parents? That memory? Aunt Lena walked in and froze in the doorway. Are you okay? Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. I stood up fast, my hands shaking. No, I'm not okay, I cried. Nothing is okay. They kicked me out, Lena. On the day I was supposed to celebrate, they threw me out like I was a stray dog. My words sliced through the air. Lena stepped closer, but I moved back. Do you get it? I said, almost out of breath. I was always the extra one to them. When I got my first award at school, Mom didn't even show up. But when Amanda just drew a simple picture, they hung it on the fridge like it was a masterpiece. Lena sat down across from me on the floor and whispered, Honey, I knew they were distant, but I didn't know it was this bad. I'm so sorry. Something broke inside me. That I'm sorry felt like the last straw. And what does that give me now? I yelled. Where were you when I sat outside my room, listening to them laugh with Amanda at the dinner table while I wasn't even invited to eat? She lowered her head, her eyes shiny with tears. I was scared to get involved, she admitted. Scared to ruin my relationship with my brother, your dad. And I was scared of all of you, I gasped. Everyone was scared to step in. Everyone closed their eyes. I was only 6, and I already knew what loneliness felt like. I sat on the floor, hugging myself, just like I used to as a kid. For a second, I really felt like that little girl again, the one with the foil crown on her head. I was always the extra one, Lena, I whispered. I was the backup plan in case Amanda failed, but no one ever chose me. Lena moved closer. Well, I'm choosing you now, she said, and I won't let anyone throw you away again. Her words hit harder than anything my parents ever said, because for the first time, I felt something new, that someone might actually want me in their life. Later that evening, when I finally calmed down after talking with my aunt, my phone vibrated. Amanda's name popped up. My heart sank. For a second, I wanted to hit decline, but part of me needed to know what she had to say. Maybe a small apology? Something human? I answered. Hi, Amanda said. Her voice was flat, like she was calling a coworker, not her sister. What do you want? I snapped. Don't start, she replied coldly. I just wanted to ask when you'll come get your stuff. What? I couldn't believe it. Well, your junk is still in your room. I need to make space for the baby. I need time and room to fix things up. A chill ran down my spine. She wasn't even trying to hide how little she cared. To her, this was just a task. Are you serious? I whispered. Yes, just come and take it all. I don't want your trash lying around when I have a newborn. Silence. I just sat there, listening to my own breathing. Deep inside, I still hoped she'd say, "And sorry for what happened." But instead she added, "And, if you can, stop being so dramatic with Mom and Dad. It's too much. You know how stressed they get with your emotional meltdowns." Meltdowns, I said through clenched teeth. They kicked me out on my birthday, Amanda. And you dare call this my meltdown? She sighed like I was annoying her. Can you act like an adult? You've got a place to live now. You're at Lena's, so stop playing the victim. It's getting ridiculous. I felt the heat rising inside me. So it's funny that they threw me out? Funny that I'm nothing to you all? Oh, come on, she groaned. That's not what I meant. Everyone's just stressed about your drama, especially Mom and Dad, and I don't want to be stuck between you and them. I need to focus on my baby now. You get that? Get that. Like I was just a problem she needed out of the way. You always care about yourself, like always, I said sharply. She paused for a second. I expected her to yell, but instead she answered coldly. Are you picking up your stuff or should I throw it out? Throw it out, and throw yourself out of my life too, I whispered, shaking with anger. Fine by me, she replied almost cheerfully, and hung up. I dropped the phone, feeling like my whole body just exploded with emotions. This wasn't just anger anymore. It was deep, raw betrayal. Talking to Lena came into the room, noticing how pale and lost I looked. What happened? She asked. I told her everything, every last word. Lena clenched her fists. I could give her a piece of my mind right now, she whispered. But you need to know this. Anyone who's okay treating you like this, who's okay with kicking you out, isn't worth your tears. I let out a bitter laugh. Amanda's the perfect daughter. Mom and Dad always said, be like Amanda. Look how smart and polite she is. And now she's probably happy I'm gone. Lena sat next to me and hugged me. She always played by their rules. You didn't. And that's your strength, she said. You're nothing like them, and that's the best thing about you. But I still couldn't stop hearing Amanda's last words echoing in my head. Stop being dramatic. Pick up your junk. The day was quiet. Lena went to meet with a lawyer, and I stayed home alone. I drank tea and watched the trees swaying in the wind outside the window. Something felt wrong. Like something heavy was hanging in the air. And I was right. As soon as I stepped outside for some fresh air, my parents' car pulled up in front of the house. The old silver Toyota I knew since I was little. Mom and Dad got out of it. I froze on the porch like my feet were stuck to the ground. Come here, Dad said sharply. I took a few steps forward, my heart pounding like crazy. What do you want? Mom crossed her arms. We need to talk. Her voice was cold as ice. I have nothing to say to you. I tried to sound strong, but inside I was shaking. Listen, Dad snapped. Because of your little show online, your grandparents are threatening to give everything to Lena. We'll lose our inheritance because of you. I felt like something inside me broke. So what? It's just money, I whispered. It's all we have, Mom shouted. And it's because of your stupid tantrum, I lowered my voice. I didn't need your money. I needed a family, but you ruined even that. They looked at each other. I waited for even a tiny bit of guilt, but instead Dad just said, take your stuff. We don't need your drama anymore. I didn't understand at first. What stuff? Then he pointed to the car. Mom opened the trunk and I saw my boxes. Everything I left in my room, photo albums, books, even an old toy I'd kept since I was a kid. They started dropping everything right in front of me onto the sidewalk. My things fell into the dirt and wet grass. What are you doing? I shouted. Amanda needs the room for her baby, Mom said coldly. Her child matters more than your old junk. But these are my things. This is my life. I ran to the boxes, trying to stop Dad as he kept dumping them out. He just pushed my hand away. Take it and forget where we live. All you do is cause problems. I dropped to my knees, watching my photos, drawings, even preschool notebooks fall into the mud. These are my memories, I whispered, holding back tears. Mom stood aside and didn't even blink. Just junk, she said. Like you're whining. I stood up quickly. Do you really hate me? I asked, my voice shaking. Dad just scoffed. We're not going to fix your problems forever. You chose to play the victim. Deal with it. I stared at them, not understanding how the people who gave me life could be this cold. I just wanted you to love me, I finally said, unable to hold back. Love has to be earned, Mom shrugged. I felt something inside me snap. They got back in the car. Take it all, or we'll throw it in the trash, Dad said before slamming the door. They drove away, leaving me alone on the street, on my knees, next to dirty boxes full of my life. I hugged my things tightly like a kid holding a teddy bear after a nightmare, and for the first time I said out loud, I'm not their daughter anymore. I sat on the sidewalk, watching the rain start to fall on my things. An old photo album lay right in front of me, soaking wet. On the cover, me at 6 years old with a silly smile, wearing that same foil crown no one ever noticed. I picked up the album and tried wiping it off with my sleeve, but it only made things worse. The pages blurred, and the photos got ruined. Love has to be earned, Mom's words echoed in my head like a knife. Maybe it's my fault, I whispered to myself. Maybe I was always the weird one, the one who never fit like Amanda. I tried gathering the boxes, but they were heavy. I was just a small, dirty girl, sitting in the middle of my scattered belongings. No one came to help me. No one held my hand. After a few minutes, I heard the front door open. What? Lena froze. Her eyes widened when she saw me kneeling in the dirt. What happened? I didn't answer. I just stared at a box full of childhood drawings, now nothing but smeared colors. She ran to me. Did they do this? Her voice shook. I nodded. They said to take my junk because Amanda needs the room for her baby. Lena clenched her fists, and for a second, I saw the same fire in her eyes I'd seen when she argued with my parents on the phone a few days ago. But now, she looked even more helpless, and even more determined. They're not even people anymore, she said. They're just... Lena couldn't even finish her sentence. I hugged myself tighter and whispered, maybe I'm not that good either. Don't you dare say that, she snapped. Not ever. I looked at her with empty eyes. Then why don't they love me? Her voice cracked. Because they don't know how to love. Lena shut her eyes and took a deep breath. Because they've only cared about themselves for a long time. Maybe I should have just agreed and gone back home, so they wouldn't lose the money? Maybe they would have needed me then. Lena grabbed my shoulders and made me look at her. This isn't your fight. It's their choice to be like this, and your life doesn't have to be part of their games. I couldn't hold it in anymore and started crying hard. Crying like I did as a kid, hiding under my bed after those family dinners where I was always left out. But I'm their daughter, I cried. I just wanted to matter to someone. I just wanted them to at least pretend they needed me. Lena said nothing, just held me tight as I cried, and the rain soaked us both. When I finally calmed down a bit, she whispered, They can't hurt you anymore. Do you know why? I glanced at her. Because you're here, with me, and now we'll figure this out together. But what if they come back? Lena pressed her lips into a thin line. We'll go to a lawyer. I'll file for custody, and you'll stay here, where no one will throw you away again. I nodded, but deep down, there was still that empty feeling. Because even with Lena and her words, I still felt like that same 16-year-old girl who'd never really been protected. After Lena and I dragged my muddy boxes into her apartment, the walls started to feel like they were closing in. The room that yesterday felt like a safe place now felt more like a basement, like I had been hidden away from the world. I sat on the floor, surrounded by my things. They didn't even feel like mine anymore. They were soaked, ruined, like broken pieces of a past that had betrayed me. My phone buzzed. It was an unknown number, but I answered. On the other end was Grandpa. Sweetie, it's Grandpa. My throat tightened right away. Grandpa? I barely whispered. His voice was shaky. Your grandma and I just found out what happened. We had no idea it was this bad. I knew, I said bitterly. You never saw it because they were good at pretending. He went quiet, then sighed heavily. I know what you're thinking, but your mom wasn't always like this, I winced. Maybe not for you, but for me, she always was, he continued. We already talked to your dad. He says it's all because of Amanda's pregnancy. He says you could have stayed with Lena for a while anyway. I gripped the phone so tightly my fingers turned white. He dumped my stuff in the rain, Grandpa. He told me to take it because they don't want me anymore. I heard Grandma gasp in the background. Grandpa spoke softly. We won't let them get away with this. If they don't sign custody over to Lena, they'll lose half of their inheritance. We'll give them no choice. I froze. So, they still might say no? They'll have to say yes. Grandpa sounded like he'd made up his mind, but suddenly, fear rose inside me. What if they don't? What if they just give everything to Amanda and forget about me? Grandpa stayed quiet for a second, then carefully said, We'll help you no matter what. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I don't ever want to go back to them, I said. Never. As soon as I hung up, the phone buzzed again. It was Amanda. Oh, not her again, I thought, but I answered. What do you want? She sounded calm, even a little amused. Grandpa called you, didn't he? Yeah. Look, I was thinking, she started, using that same cold tone. Since everyone's acting like this is some big drama, maybe I can help you. Get rid of some stuff. What? I didn't get it. You know, from your boxes. I saw that old doll, the pink one you got when you were 7. Remember? My heart dropped. You went through my things? Oh no, I just helped Mom move them. You've got so much junk. She laughed. I had to fight not to explode. What do you really want? And then she finally showed her true colors. Honestly, I just want you to stop acting like a victim. I've got my own life. A baby coming soon. I don't have time for your meltdowns. Plus, Mom and Dad are walking around like kicked puppies because now the whole family's turned on them. Because they deserve it, I shouted. Oh, please, she replied with a slight laugh. We all knew you were always kind of the extra one. I just played by the rules. That was it. I'm not extra. I'm your sister. Look, you chose to be Lena's problem now. I'm not to blame because Mom and Dad finally made a choice. My lips trembled. You're cold, Amanda, and you're about to have a baby. She paused, then said, I'll love my child more than you ever felt from Mom and Dad. I couldn't take it. I hung up. When Lena came back into the room and saw how pale I was, I couldn't hold it in. They're still playing games. Amanda said I've always been the extra one. Lena pressed her lips together. Amanda is just a product of how they raised her. But you're not like them. You're stronger. I'm not strong, I sobbed. I'm small and scared. She sat next to me. You're not small. You're someone who dared to stand up. And now you're not alone. I looked at her. Then why does it still hurt? Lena sighed and said, because you're still hoping they'll change. And I realized she was right. Deep inside, I was still that 6-year-old girl standing there with a crown on her head, waiting for someone to finally notice her. The next morning, Lena told me she had set up a meeting with a lawyer. Her voice sounded firm, but I could see she was holding back her emotions. She was nervous, just like me. While we were riding in a taxi, I stared out the window at the clouds hanging low over the city. Amanda's words kept playing in my head. You've always been the extra one. Extra. The word stuck inside me like a piece of glass. For some reason, I felt even smaller now. If I were stronger, I would have said something back to her. But instead, I just quietly gripped the strap of my backpack. It'll be okay, Lena said, as if she could read my mind. I nodded, though I wasn't so sure. The lawyer was a woman in her 40s, strict-looking but with kind eyes. Lena explained the situation quickly. I sat next to her, silently soaking up every word. This is a clear case of emotional neglect, the lawyer said. If they even threw a child's belongings out into the rain, she winced. You're in a strong position. My stomach tightened. But they're still my parents, I whispered. The lawyer nodded. That's true, they could push back, but your grandparents also have influence here. They can help. I thought back to the call with Grandpa and Grandma, and I felt a bit lighter, but only for a moment. Lena placed a hand on mine. We'll finish this, she said. I won't back down. As we left the office and headed home, I heard the sound of an incoming email on my phone. Mom. I felt a wave of heat wash over me. Lena noticed. Do you want me to read it first? She asked. No, I'll do it. I opened the message. We never wanted it to come to this, but you decided to make us look like fools. You know Lena can't handle you on her own. She's single. She knows nothing about raising a child. You're my daughter, and I'll always be your mother. But if you choose to stay with her, don't come to us again, and think carefully before signing anything with lawyers, because after that, it'll be too late. The words closed in on me from every side. I felt trapped. What does she say? Lena leaned toward me. I stumbled. She says I made them into enemies, and if I stay with you, I can't count on them anymore. Lena stayed quiet for a moment. But could you ever really count on them before? Her voice was gentle, but there was steel underneath. I didn't know what to say. Part of me still believed she was my mom and that maybe deep down she cared. Maybe she does feel bad, I asked, mostly to myself. Lena gave a sad smile. She feels bad about losing control, not about losing you. I gripped the phone tighter, thinking, what if I am making a mistake? What if Lena really can't replace my parents? Doubts. That night, I couldn't fall asleep. I sat on the floor, surrounded by scattered boxes, staring at a crumpled drawing from elementary school. It showed my family, and I had written, I love Dad, Mom, and Amanda. I was 6 when I made it. I started rubbing the words with my finger, like I could erase what I felt. An unexpected twist. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Lena rushed to the window and peeked outside. It's Amanda. I froze. Is she alone? Lena nodded. Do you want me to tell her to leave? I stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then I said, No, I want to know what she wants. Amanda showed up at the door out of nowhere. As soon as Lena saw her through the window, she tensed. Should I open it? She asked me. I nodded. Deep inside, a childish hope still flickered. Maybe she finally came to apologize? Amanda walked in like she owned the place. Cold, confident, like she was in full control. She was holding a plastic bag, and right away I knew she didn't come to make peace. We need to talk, she said flatly, tossing the bag onto the floor. I stared at her, feeling tense. What now? I asked. She sat on the couch next to my boxes. Mom and Dad don't want to start a war. They're ready to sign over custody, but there's a condition. What condition? Amanda gave me that usual look, the one she always used when we were kids, looking at me from above like I was nothing. Take down your post. Remove it from the internet. They can't walk around our neighborhood. Everyone is staring. Everyone's whispering. Dad is embarrassed at work. I froze for a second. I expected anything. Yelling, blame, even a meltdown, but not this. So, you don't want to fix things with me. You just want me to clean up the mess? Amanda shrugged. It's simple. Take down the post and we'll sign the papers. No one will bother you again. Mom's tired of all the drama. My hands went cold. So you don't even want to understand why I wrote it? I whispered. Oh, we get it, she snapped. You always loved a little drama. Lena couldn't hold it anymore. She's a child. They kicked her out on her birthday, and now you're here trying to silence her? Amanda shot her a quick glance. We just want things to be clean. I stepped closer to my sister. Don't you feel even a little ashamed? Do you? She challenged. You made Mom and Dad look like monsters. You made them look like villains in front of the whole family. I stepped back, feeling the words choking me. They are villains. They threw me out, and you just stood there, agreeing with them. Even now, I stand with Mom and Dad because we're family, she said calmly. You chose Lena. That was the final nail. Then go back to your family, I said through tears. Amanda stood up, smiling the way people do when they think they've won. Think about it. After this, it might be too late. She left, leaving the bag behind. Inside were my old things, a diary, school notebooks, a few crumpled cards I once gave to Mom. On them were the words, "With love from your daughter." Lena sat down next to me and quietly said, "Now you know where she stands." I lowered my head. She's always been there. I broke into sobs, and this time Lena didn't say anything to calm me down. She just silently hugged me. The papers giving up custody arrived 2 days later. The lawyer called Lena and said my parents agreed to sign them. No conditions, no questions, just a dry signature sealed by a notary. I stood in Lena's kitchen holding my phone tight. They just gave me away like that? I asked. Lena nodded. It's good. It's freedom. It's what you wanted. I nodded back, but it felt different inside, like they had traded me for something more important, and I knew that something was the inheritance. An hour later, I got an email from Mom. We accepted your choice. Hope you're happy. Amanda will stay with us. We're giving her your room. You don't owe us anything anymore, and we don't owe you anything either. Good luck. I read the email over and over. Every word felt like a knife. You don't owe us anything anymore. We don't owe you either. They didn't even try to apologize or pretend to be sorry. This wasn't just the end, it was like a burial. That same evening, Amanda sent me a short message. Everything is how it should be. You never fit in our family. I'm waiting for a new life now. Mom and Dad are by my side. Hope Lena teaches you how to live with reality. I sat there holding the phone, and for the first time, I didn't cry. Lena noticed and quietly said, "They're no longer part of your life." I looked at her. "But it still hurts." "And that's okay," she replied. "It will always hurt, but now you're free and you can live with it." I sat on the floor next to my boxes and pulled out my diary, the same one Amanda threw at me days ago. On the first page, a drawing of 6-year-old me, a family of 3, Mom, Dad, and Amanda, and me, standing off to the side, smaller than the rest. Underneath it, I love my family. I slowly flipped through the pages, reading my childhood notes. Today, Mom forgot to pick me up from school again, but it's okay. I'm strong. Dad said I should be like Amanda, and I tried. Every sentence felt like a scar. I placed the diary on the table and finally said out loud, "It wasn't my fault." Lena smiled softly. It never was. The next morning we went to the lawyer together. I signed the papers, making it official that I was now under Lena's custody. The office was quiet. After the last signature, Lena squeezed my hand tight. This is a new beginning. I nodded, but inside I only felt emptiness, and at the same time, a strange kind of peace. When we got back home, Grandpa called me. Your grandma and I did all we could, he said. We're ready to support you, and we'll always be here for you. Thanks, Grandpa, I replied. But I'm not waiting on Mom and Dad anymore. He sighed heavily. I wish they were different, but not everyone changes. I smiled through the tiredness. But I will. That night, I opened the diary again, but this time I picked up a pen and wrote a new page. I don't have to wait anymore. Now, I live for myself. I knew the pain about my parents would stay with me for a long time, but I wasn't that 6-year-old girl with a crown anymore. I was a 16-year-old girl who finally found herself. And this time, without them. Lena walked into the room. What are you writing? I closed the diary. Planning my future. She smiled. Now that sounds right. I looked out the window and felt it. Behind all the dark clouds, there had to be light. And now I had a chance to reach it.